The word woke is a bit of a boogeyman for some of these more progressive streamers that are completely allergic to holding corporations accountable and feel far more comfortable shitting on large groups of people that have preferences that they simply disagree with because of their left wing tendencies. So, for example, in this video, the Act Man says, well, I don't talk about wokeness because I know that the boy who cries wolf is a thing, and if I talk about a game being woke, then the perfect woke game could come out, and no one's going to listen to me talk about wokeness because everything else is woke. It's bullshit. It's just pure delusional cope and his inability to tackle with this criticism, which is completely valid. If you are not willing to talk about the fact that one of the main contributing factors to Concord failing is its wokeness, or DEI, or bridge, or whatever you want to call it, you are not somebody that can be taken seriously. You just can't. You don't have the testicular fortitude to acknowledge the fact that in the industry, there is an alarming number of degenerate freaks and mentally ill left wing progressives that are intentionally making these games worse in the quest to make them quote unquote better. And by better, I don't mean graphically better, I don't mean a better story. I mean better in terms of, well, they fit within my neat moral framework. My moral framework, which says that anything that I believe in is morally right, and anyone who disagrees with me is a hateful Nazi bigot. So, we're going to watch a little bit of this video, but I just want to articulate something very quickly from the outset. I use the word woke for the sake of brevity. I can use a single word, no prefix, and no addendum required, and I immediately get the audience to put their mind where I want it to be, which is around this general consensus around what wokeness is. Now, it's not perfect. It's subjective. Everyone has their own way to interpret it. However, it is incredibly effective as a literary tool because so many people are aware of what it is. And the fact that the Act Man is pretending that, well, I don't use it because it has this very specific definition. No, you understand what the word woke means in a general sense. If people use it inappropriately, you can call them out for that. But for him to completely ignore that, it just demonstrates that he's a slimy, skeezy person that doesn't have the authenticity or the originality to just come out and be honest and say, yes, I'm a progressive. Yes, I agree with a lot of these different things. And to be honest and have himself say, I'm more comfortable shitting on people who are fans than the actual corporations that are ruining these franchises.
Subreddit, by the way, for a while, is because people about Concord and not mention the clear woke slop. And you make fun of people who use the word woke, and you never use the word, even though it completely describes what's going on right now in gay games.
So the thing about the word woke is it harkens back to that old story we all read and were taught when we were growing up, the boy who cried wolf. These days it's the boy who cried woke. There is so much disingenuous criticism using the word woke. The word is...
So what he's attempting to do there is something that a lot of these woke content creators use, and he is a woke content creator. That's not a misuse of the word. It is an apt description of his personality type, what he chooses to focus on, what bothers him versus what bothers other people. He is incredibly woke, incredibly left-wing, incredibly progressive, and he's a problem. Mainly because if you're going to shit on the people that have an opinion and a preference that's different than yours, and they want to identify it as something and you have a problem with that definition, you can't even use that definition to describe what's actually going on, and you're more comfortable just shitting on people, like he's about to do with Star Wars. But the main part of it is that while some people may get the definition of the word woke wrong, far more people get it right. And it's not hard to get right because everything is woke. And that's not a joke, that's not in quotations. Look at Star Wars. I mean, I don't even need to elaborate. I just say the word Star Wars and you understand. I mean, the Acolyte is just one bit of it, but you look at the sequels, you look at all of these different changes, they have made the franchise into a joke. You have but to look at the landscape of media to understand that wokeness is a cancer that has infected almost everything. They came out with a Seth Rogen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. When I was growing up, April O'Neil was a reporter. She was a redhead. She had big tits. She was attractive. Now she's a fat, disgusting looking black lesbian. I'm not even kidding. The whole thing about her being a lesbian is they're like, well, we want to add that into, the content to be sort of subtle or edgy, which it's not. But no word of a lie, April O'Neil used to be an attractive redhead, and now she is a fat black woman who is interested in other women. I don't think that you could possibly argue that that isn't wokeness, that isn't a de-evolution into this cult, into this just fringe, disgusting, cancerous mindset. Scooby-Doo, another thing I grew up with. Now it's made to look like Mindy Kaling, and it's just filled with woke propaganda and other disgusting cliches from, modern year. I could go down the list. I could go down to nearly every franchise I grew up with. Terminator certainly had that. They had the LGBT 1000. I could keep going. The idea that there isn't an appropriate number of woke things to be able to identify something as woke or dripping in DEI is just felonious. It's ridiculous. He doesn't want to address this. He's trying to sidestep it because he's a slimy, smarmy cocksucker. This lurch motherfucker thinks that he can get out of this just by obfuscating and distracting. And the answer is no. I see right through you. I understand what you're doing. This guy may let you get away with it because he's not a very good debater. And he doesn't really seem to have his ideas and thoughts in line, which is probably why you chose to have an argument with him. But the fact is, just because some people get the word woke wrong, say that 10 times fast. Just because some people get the word woke wrong doesn't diminish the effect, the very real effect that we're seeing in media.
So liberally applied to every...
This is why we banned it on the subreddit, by the way, for a while. Is because people use the word woke the same as they use the word, like, racist or, like, a few other things. Where it's like, this is, like, basically is going to apply. Video games. There's white and woke.
Online.
I mean, Asman will say something like this. And here's the thing. I think that he's saying this to be more in alignment with his friend. I think he's friends with the Ackman, which would make sense because I've heard Asmongold talk about these issues when it's on a video that's just blatantly woke, blatantly dripping in DEI and propaganda and stuff, and he's far more reasonable on this sort of stuff. It's not like you have a white character or it's woke. It's if it fits within the realm of that particular world. I'll give you an example. If you were to have a GTA game that took place in Harlem, or you took place in a certain area of the world that had a majority black population and the character was the only white person, you look at that and you go, that's weird. That's wrong. That's not right. What people want more than anything is authenticity. And so, in most stories, most folklores, it is off-putting and jarring and wrong and kind of insulting and offensive to the culture to see black people needlessly injected in, like with God of War. Unger Boda. It's a perfect example. And there was massive backlash to that. Because it made no sense. It made no sense to make Unger Boda black. But they did it. And they did it for Western progressive woke values. Now, people like myself and others try to call it out because, as Asmongold said about censorship, which I think applies to all of this stuff, when you let them get away with one thing, they're going to do more and more of it. And the problem is, these lurch-looking freaks, these low IQ, backbenching, slimy, cocksucking losers like the Ackman, what they do is they, instead of focusing on the problem, they try to make the audience criticizing it the problem. They are like Mighty Keef, or Mighty Queef in that one video, where I highlighted the fact that Endymion made a post saying, hey, look, the new Ghost of Tsushima game, Ghost of Yotei, I want to play as a man and I don't want to play as a woman, and I don't think that that's a particularly good thing. What was Mighty Queef's response? Oh, he was outraged. You're an absolute loser. Why? Because he doesn't want to play as a woman? He's not a pathetic estrogen bomb like you? You are a woke freak, by the way, Mighty Queef. You are an embarrassment. Just an absolute embarrassment. Every take that you have is anti-consumer. It's against what the general gaming consensus wants. You think very little of them, but that's okay because I think very little of you. But somebody like the Ackman, he and Mighty Keef and a lot of these other people have this tone where it's more egregious to criticize the company that's embracing wokeness than it is to basically just do the right thing. To do the right thing to call out the corporation. They want to call out the consumer. They want to call out the customer. How dare you have a preference?
And grifters who produce daily outrage content that are saying, this thing is woke, you should be angry, you should be upset. Tune in tomorrow for episode 4169 on why Star Wars is woke now and why you should hate it and be mad and angry and upset.
Yeah.
Well, people are already angry and upset. These people just put it into a single place that you can go and watch and see that there are other people that are part of that group. Star Wars is in the worst place it's ever been. And see, do you understand, like, when I talk about him being a greasy cocksucker, do you start to see, like, the words that when they come out of his mouth, you start to get a picture of who we're talking about here. The type of just smarmy, smug, self-righteous, self-indulgent piece of human crap that doesn't want to address the reality of the fact that he's trying to obfuscate this. Meanwhile, the reality of the situation is right there. It's sort of like listening to Kamala Harris try to argue about, oh no, the economy is great. Bidenomics is working. Oh, the border is fine. Like, everything's fine. No, it's nothing to see here. Oh, this is just propaganda. But when you actually look at it, you're like, oh my God, there's so many disasters going on at once that it's actually kind of a point of miracle, the fact that he would feel comfortable just being this cavalier on this issue.
There's so much of that going on that the ending of the story of the boy who cried wolf is that at the end there was a wolf out there, but because there were so many false claims of there being a wolf, the people didn't help him. So that's what's happened with the word woke. When I hear somebody... So
I think that Ackman's bringing up a really good point here, and
He's not. Asman, you know better than this.
I think the best example of that point is that a lot of people have labeled games like Space Marine 2 as woke because it has I guess a female commander in it, and I feel like that's not really what's happening.
So what Asman is attempting to do is try to clean up what the Ackman said, his ignorant, just low IQ take. The reality is that people use the word woke, kind of in an overbearing way because there's so much woke content out there. There's so much of it. It is eye-watering over the last 10 years. And when you go back and you watch video games from the past, you see what we lost. And I think maybe that's the difference. People like Asmongold and people like the Ackman, they're the frog that has become accustomed to the boiling water. And they're willing to just go with the flow. Okay, well, we're just going to completely boil. We're going to be frog legs for the French. People like myself and others go, wait a minute, this is way too hot, and so we jump out of the pot. And people like the Ackman look up and go, God, that guy was an idiot. He jumped out of the pot. Does he know that it's nice in here? It's a nice pot in here. We should stay in here. His thing about the boy who cried wolf, we're already past the end of the story. Wokeness has infected and become the mainstream of the video game industry. It is the mainstream of the video game industry. There was a game development conference that took place in San Francisco. If I recall correctly, it was anywhere from 15 to 20% of that entire show was dedicated to DEI and woke panels and presentations. 15 to 20%. This is a problem. It continues to be a problem. And now, the Act Man has become a problem. Because this guy doesn't have the testicular fortitude to address this topic honestly and openly, to be forthcoming about it, to be forthright about it. He wants to obfuscate with this story about the boy who cried wolf. We're way past that. We've seen the damage that has occurred from this. We've seen the just decay in the gaming industry to the point where they've hired so many woke, incompetent people that everywhere you turn, it's not just the propaganda. It's not just the woke filth that they cram into the games. The games are substandard. The graphics are shockingly inept. The ideas are bad. The writing is bad. The chemistry between the characters are bad. Everything has been saturated with this film from this ideology. And while it may take different forms, it has the same underlying problem.
And a lot of people, well, sorry, that's actually not true. A lot of people and could be sense that it seems like it's something being woke, right? Would also be woke because of Coltrane and Dom, right? So that seems like kind of a bad argument, a bad way to look at it. So the problem is that I think that people have started using the term woke for too many different things, or Halo, right? Yeah, exactly. Like, oh wow, Master Chief has a woman that knows everything, that tells him what to do, and Sergeant Johnson's like this black guy, and he tells everybody else what to do, right? If you want to look at everything through that lens, it's like
Asman. Listen, I'll give Asman credit. He's not as retarded as he's appearing right here. I don't know if it's because he's trying to defend his friend, but I don't think he actually believes what he's saying, because I've heard him make much more sense in this. Wokeness has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with, Cortana's a woman. No, no one has ever made that complaint ever. That has never been a legitimate thing where people are like, oh, well, the computer AI assistant can't be a woman. No, not at all. That's never even been a thought in people's mind. And Halo is one of the most popular game franchises of all time. What people do have a problem with is actual wokeness, Asman, which you're not mentioning the Halo TV show, which incorporates wokeness. And so Cortana takes control over Master. I don't want to give away the whole show, but when Cortana takes over Master Chief, and he's taking off his helmet, having sex with alien Asian refugees, but when it becomes a girl boss moment, and you can see that stuff so clearly in the Halo show, yes, people then have a problem with it because it's intrusive. It's grotesque. What Asman is saying here is absolute bullshit, but I don't want to come down too hard on him. I think he's just trying to defend his friend here. Now, again, I don't know if they're actually friends, but I think they are. I think they're part of the same sort of circle. But that's asinine. No one has a problem with Cortana. No one has a problem with Samus being a woman. It's all in the proper time and place. And when a company comes, like for example, there's no one who's going to call, Ghost of Tsushima woke if they have an Asian man playing the main character in a story about feudal Japan. No one is going to call a game woke if it has a main character who's black that's taking place in Africa, okay? Or the Caribbean. It's only when it's in a really inappropriate place and done for such an obvious reason. Like, for example, Yasuke. Yasuke in the middle of Japan, in feudal Japan, is off-putting. It's weird. So people call that woke, and they're absolutely right. Now, you can call it whatever you want, but it is an accurate description of reality. And so you can go watch the rest of this video. Not a fan of the Act Man. I think Asman is much more sensible about this when he's not reacting to somebody else's video. There are times where he goes into these tirades that have a more left-wing tint, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like good Asman, bad Asman. Maybe it depends on his mood or whatever, because I've seen him have far more reasonable takes than this, so I'm not going to come down too hard on him. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the support. See you next time.